Hey, what's up? For those of you who are new here, my name is Daniel from iosoundstudio.com, where we make inspiring music for people all around the world, and our goal is to impact the world with music and to inspire and teach others to do the very same thing. So enough with all of that, let's go ahead and get into the video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 basic principles in mixing music. So first off, in most lyric-driven music, the vocal is king. I'm gonna say that again. In most lyric-driven music, the vocal is king. So in genres like pop or country or hip-hop or singer-songwriter, for example, everything in those songs is ultimately meant to complement the vocal. So what does that mean in terms of the mix? That means that the song should be mixed in such a way that the vocal is the primary element of attention. It's the main thing drawing the listener's focus. So that means that as mixers and mixing engineers, we have to EQ and pan and shape all of the instrumentation ultimately around the vocal for the majority of songs in those genres. And of course, it's not just limited to those genres. There's a lot of other genres that are also vocal driven, but just as a general rule of thumb, in any lyric driven songs and genres, the vocal needs to be the king. It needs to be the center of the song. Now, if you're really unfamiliar with how to actually do that practically in a mix, I can make another video in the future if that's something that you guys are interested about. And if you are, go ahead and actually comment that down below in the comment section so that I can see if there's any demand for that. Number 2, and before we actually get into number 2, while you're down there in the comment section, if you could hit subscribe and leave a like, that would mean so much to me. It really helps get this video out to more people who like this kind of content. So please do that. It's a huge way to support me, and it's a really simple thing to do. So number 2, use mixing to complement the production. That's a huge thing. So for example, if you hear a guitar or a synth line that's happening between vocal phrases, say for example in the verse of a song or the chorus of a song, I would emphasize those parts so that it actually highlights those parts and adds some more interest to the song. Good mixing shines a spotlight on great production. And I can tell you pretty honestly that the producer who listens back to the song will really appreciate the fact that you took the time as a mixing engineer to make the little parts that he put in there or she put in there sound good instead of just burying it super far down in the mix where no one would ever notice it. Now, this is a general kind of rule of thumb, but this is not a hard and a fast rule. Generally, for any non-low frequency sound sources, I would suggest going ahead and high passing anything below about 100 hertz or so. Now, of course, that's just a general rule of thumb, but most importantly, go ahead and use your ears before you make any EQ changes. If you do high pass something like a guitar at 100 hertz and you're feeling like it's really hurting the tone of the guitar, then, roll it back some, dial it back to 70 hertz or 80 hertz or something and see how that sounds. But most importantly, use your ears. Now, with low frequency sound sources, I would suggest going ahead and high passing anything between like 20 and 35 hertz. Anything below those, really you don't need in your mix at all. If you're having a ton of low end that's not high passed, you're ultimately losing headroom in your mix and you're causing other problems down the line. For example, the range of human hearing is only 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. So there's really no point of having all of that low information down there to begin with. A big part of our job as mixing engineers is to make sure that the songs that we mix are reproducible by a bunch of different sound sources. And very honestly, a lot of sound sources cannot reproduce anything under 30 hertz anyways. So again, you want to make those sound sources work efficiently so that they can accurately reproduce the songs that you're mixing. And that's why, that's the why behind why you should high pass really anything under 25 hertz. Now again, if you feel like you're losing some information that's crucial to your mix down that far, which is very unlikely, then again, use your ears, trust your ears. But unless you're mixing for high fidelity sources, then you don't really need any of that information anyways. Number 4, and this is perhaps the most important, is mix to the client's liking. Yes, it's true that you are the expert in the field and the client is the artist or whatever it is that they are, but ultimately you want to mix the song to the client's liking. Why? Because it's their song. So for example, if there is a song that you're mixing and there's a lot of guitar in there and the client says, hey, I love the song, it sounds great, but I would really like less guitar in this part of the song, then it's your job as the mixing engineer to say, you know what, okay, I understand this is not my song, this is your song. I'm gonna do ultimately what it is that you are looking for in this song. The job as the mixing engineer and as the producer and even as the mastering engineer is to, one, serve the song, but more importantly, serve the client. Why? Because it's their song. It's their money that they're paying for your service. So don't get a chip on your shoulder. Don't get on your high horse. Just do ultimately what the client wants. Now, if you really think that the client's suggestion is really going to hurt the song in the end, what I would suggest doing is trying what they want and then show that to them, and also try what you think sounds best and show that to them as well. Give them kind of like an A/B comparison so that they can make the decision for themselves. Now, in this case, if they still want to go with their suggestion and you know that it's not the best in the end, you know what? That's okay. Ultimately, it's their song. It's not your song. And you should still humble yourself and really just serve the client at the end of the day. Because what they're going to remember after the song is out is how you were agreeable and how you were good to work with. But if you guys, get in a fight or whatever over a stupid mixing decision, then it's not worth it in the end, and it's not worth losing that relationship. And very lastly, and this is just a suggestion, this is definitely not a hard and fast rule, but this is a really good workflow that you can use for mixing your projects in the future. Now, the workflow that I would suggest trying out is to first gain stage your song. What does that mean? I mean, make sure that all of the different sound sources, all of the different tracks in the song are hitting between -18 to -12 decibels on every single meter. Now, after your song is fully gain stage, I would suggest doing a static mix of your song. A static mix is just where you change the actual volume levels, the faders on each channel to achieve a balanced sound. That gives you kind of a frame of reference, and it gives you kind of just a starting point for the rest of the mix. After you do that, I would suggest adding processing using things like EQ, compression to gain balance in the song. I would also suggest using reverb and things like that you can do creatively at this stage as well. After you have kind of a balance in the song and you feel like it sounds good overall, I would suggest adding panning to the song to create some width and also to create some interest and to also create a left and right stereo balance of the song as well. Obviously, if everything is right down the middle in mono, even if you work with the faders, it's still not going to really sound great. But again, this process is not a hard and fast rule. You can kind of change it and change the order of some of these steps if you want to make them work better with your workflow. But this is kind of just a basic suggestion. After you're finished with panning and you feel like the song is static mixed and panned to your liking, you feel like it feels fairly balanced, then I would suggest going back and adding automation to the different parameters of the song. Now, once again, this is not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes I will add automation earlier in the process. If I'm doing reverb throws or delay throws or something like that, I might do that earlier in the mixing process. But this is kind of just a template, if you will, that you could try using in your workflow and see if you like it, see if it works for you. And if not, go ahead and actually leave below what your workflow looks like for mixing. I would love to see what you guys do. I'd love to learn from it as well myself. But my friends, that is everything that I have for you today. Those are the 5 basic principles of mixing music. If you liked it, go ahead and share it with a mixing engineer that you think could benefit from this, and go ahead and hit subscribe, and I'll be seeing you soon with a new video. Before you go, I want you to know that our team here at IO Sound Studio, we are starting a brand new course that's launched and aimed specifically at independent music creators. It's called the Artist Development Bootcamp, and it is specifically geared to, firstly, make a 4-song EP for each artist that is in it. We're only taking a limited number of artists, and we're starting up in January. But we're not only making the EP for the artist, but we're also teaching the artist, every single artist, how to actually market their music effectively. It's a really great course, and we're walking very intentionally with just a handful of people in the course. And so if that's something that you're interested in and you think you could benefit from it, you could learn more on iosoundstudio.com, my website. And you can also schedule a time slot for a call with my wife and I, and we will talk to you all about the program and what that looks like. It's going to be customized to every artist, and it's going to be very intentional, and I very much believe in it, and I think every single artist will benefit a lot from it. So go ahead and check it out if that's something you're interested in. But I will see you very soon with a new video.